I'm Jeff Sorenson, Sales Agronomist, and this week I'm coming to you live with a Crop Talk. This week we're going to talk about emergence and doing emergence scores, primarily on corn, with a little bit of talk on soybeans here also. But standing out here in a cornfield that was planted, as you can see, we're just starting to see the corn starting to come up here now. Came up here a few days ago. And the place I want to talk about here is the area I'm looking at right here. So what we've got here is we've got a couple of corn plants that are really fully emerged. We're starting to get our leaf or two coming on here. And then as you notice, we have this area right in here where we've basically got nothing. We got the corn plants coming here, but they are, I would say, a good 3 to 4 days behind on the emergence. So now what I want to do is I want to take a look and see why do we have this issue going on here. The first thing that I look at is, is there any difference in soil? And the reason I picked this area out is you can see we have a little bit more soybean trash residue here from last year. And just my perception initially is that, maybe we had too much trash here, didn't have proper seeding depth, and that kind of thing. So what I'm going to do, what I got here is a knife. You can take whatever you want to. The reason I like this knife, you guys probably can't see it, but it actually has numbers on the blade so I can read how deep my kernel, or how deep it is where I'm digging at. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of gently dig around this corn plant, get it dug out here. And the reason I'm being gentle with it is because I want to actually find my corn seed that I planted out here and see how deep it was. So as you can see here, the seed kernel is still here, and I got my root here. So I've got a nice root mass coming along here. And actually, as I dug here, we can actually go and measure how deep it was. So I put my tip of my knife on the kernel, and right here you can kind of see where the stem was starting to get a little bit thinner, as well as just plain turned green, because that was where the sunlight was. And actually in this case, my seeding depth was about 2 inches, which is where I want it to be at. But as you notice, as I was digging here, kind of like I suspected, had a little bit more trash here. It was probably what's happening was the soybean stubble was actually turned into a giant straw. And so even if I maybe planted into moisture, the soybean stubble here was sitting in here, and it was just soaking the moisture right out of there. And after this field was planted, it took it about 3 or 4 days before we got a rain on it. So these corn plants that were in here, they actually weren't into moisture when we planted the field. So those are just a couple of things to look at. Some other things, like I said, we want to look at planting depth. That was what I first looked at. Look at any other issues. The other thing that we're seeing a lot of this year, it was really dry on top as we planted the corn, but believe it or not, it was actually really wet underneath, and we saw some sidewall smearing and sidewall compaction. And as I dug here, you can kind of feel it with your knife. It just dug nice and easy. I didn't have any sidewall compaction in here, but as you can see, some of these places we do have some sidewall compaction, and that standpoint. And part of the reason why I want to look at emergence, like I said, we talked about here, this corn plant was, he emerged about 3-4 days ago versus this one here that was just starting to come up. The reason that's important is because at first, if we have more than about a 2 to 3 day separation in emergence, we can start to see a lot of issues coming down the road in terms of ear set and how far behind it is. And actually, if we get to be about more than 4 days behind, it actually turns into a weed for us. And so if you guys have any other questions talking about emergence and scoring and taking a look at issues that we had with the planter, feel free to contact any Legend Sales representative. Otherwise, my name is Jeff Sorenson with this week's Crop Talk. Have a great day.